Guys, on today's episode of Collector Spotlight, I have the #1 Michael Jordan card collector in the world. He at one point in the year 2012, he had put together the greatest Michael Jordan card collection in the entire world. I've got Lou Costabile on the channel. If you don't know Lou, you've never met Lou, you've never read about Lou, or you've never seen any of the videos about him and his collection on the internet, you're not going to want to miss today's Collector Spotlight episode. I think you're in for something you may never have seen before.
See why Card Ladder is the industry leader in sports card data. We know what you want because Card Ladder was created by collectors for collectors. Card Ladder. Join the innovators, not the imitators.
Hey guys, Brian with Cajun Cardboard coming at you from the great state of Louisiana, and I've had some big time guests on the channel. Nat Turner's been on the channel, some of the biggest and baddest collectors in the world. I've had NBA players on my channel, and I don't think I've ever been as excited as I am today because I've got a friend of mine and a guy who sort of laid the foundation for not just me, but everybody who does what we do. And I've got Lou Costabile on the channel. Lou, welcome to the channel, man. I'm so excited to get you on here. I should have done this a long time ago.
Well, I'm kind of the history lesson, meaning that this is going back in time, and I'm happy to be here, and I'm happy to share. I'm actually quite excited about talking about Jordan cards again. It's been a long time.
Yeah, you know what I'm thinking is there's a chance that we may spark some nostalgia. You know how this works, Lou. I'm gonna say something. You're gonna see one of your old cards. You're gonna get that fever. The competitive juices are gonna be going. You're gonna go sell a whole bunch of vehicles, and then you're gonna go start buying Jordan cards again. Is that possible? Can we make that happen?
Anything's possible. I mean, there's definitely some cards of Jordan that are no longer in my collection that I do definitely think I'd like to have them back. So you never know.
Well, this is going to be an incredible story. Let's do it this way, just to give people kind of an idea of what we're going to do. And I gave you a little brief overview. I'm going to kind of talk about who you were. Okay. So you've had a couple of different lives here, and I know you run multiple businesses. We're going to talk about all that because I want to know more about what's going on with Lou right now as well. But we're going to talk about who you were, how you got there, and then we'll talk about where we went from there and what you're doing now. So we're kind of going to work in chronological order, if that sounds fine.
Sounds great.
Okay, so first question, we got to just get this out of the way. Were you the biggest Michael Jordan card collector in the world at one point?
Yes.
Okay, that's an unequivocal yes for you people out there. And yes, everybody knows there's some big dogs that are out there right now. But I knew the answer to that question was going to be yes. Lou was the top dog, not in the U.S., not in Chicago, not in the Midwest, not in this hemisphere, in the entire world. And we're going to look at some of Lou's most badass stuff on this video today.
Well, I'd like to pause for just a second because I don't want to say, I could say that and nobody else could say it, right? I think there's another group out there. If I pull up this Beckett magazine, Jordan's rarest cards, that was with Kobe on the cover. This is 2009, 2010. It shares my collection. And the other one that kind of put me on the map was Michael Jordan's Hall of Fame brochure. And that was fall of 2009 when they were taking all the biggest collectors and that they could find at the time. And
rounding them up.
Yeah, they call it the Jordanaires. And
yeah.
I had a display on my walls in my office, kind of letting everybody know that I'm the guy.
I would too. I would too. They didn't have vaulting back then, Lou. Okay, now people are vaulting. Some people vault. Some people put it in a bank vault. Some people put it in a vault in another state.
I was fine putting it on, putting them up on the wall and taking my chances.
I cannot wait to dive into your collection because that's what the people are going to hear about. But tell me, so let's do this. Let's work. Let's establish the peak. Where were you at the peak of your powers? When were you the most powerful Jordan collector or one of the most powerful Jordan collectors in the world? What year would you say where you kind of peaked?
We're probably talking about 2010, 2011, 2012, right in there.
Okay, so right at the inception of the Panini era, right when Panini Prism was going to come out maybe the next year, and that would kind of change the hobby forever. Some people say for the much better, some people say for the worst, but for the purpose of this interview, it's not going to matter at all because we're not going to really talk about cards from 2012. So when did you, what got you into cards? Let's just talk about your origin story, but I don't want to spend too much time. Just generally give us a synopsis of how Lou got into collecting cards in general, and then per se, Michael Jordan cards, which is what we're here to talk about today.
Okay. So fast forwarding, and you can ask me to back up. I was a baseball card collector originally, and I was, I was always kind of interested in condition for some reason. So if I would collect 3 cards, I would always look for the one that was the best condition and sell the other card. And I had every Hall of Fame baseball player from 1958 through 1986.
Okay.
And every one of their years. There were a few exceptions to that, and then I had cards that were earlier than that too. I had original Babe Ruth cards, and when I say original, 1933 Gaudies, things like that. Original Ty Cobb card, 1909 Ty Cobb card, things like that. So I was really pretty heavy into baseball, and I started a business in 2002, and I decided that I wanted to be debt free. So at the time, I sold my card collection so I could buy a Honda.
Yeah.
And
well, you had a good card collection. That must be a hell of a Honda. You sure you didn't buy like 40 Hondas? What did you?
No, it wasn't, the money wasn't like that at the time. I mean, still there was good money in baseball, but it wasn't what it is now.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I got the car, and I was quote unquote debt free. And I had started this business in 2002 called ARS Technology, and it started to grow. And I caught it kind of at the right time. Well, what I mean by that is Jordan was just coming off the Wizards.
Yeah.
And it was probably one of his, I'll call, low points in the card industry, because people were kind of like, Mike, we wish you just would have retired with the Bulls. And
yes,
you're coming back, and we don't want to see this Mike, and it's just not the same. And, still an awesome player, especially at his age, but it just was a low point, and he was disgruntled. Sure. He wanted to be part of the ownership, and there was kind of a little bit of a lull. So I kind of took advantage of that lull. And I had a gentleman who started to teach me about, his name was Jim Anderson in Shoebox Collection. I don't know if he still has that shop. He probably still does. Maybe he does. And he started to tell me the difference between silver and gold standard cards. Because I walked into a shop one time, and I said, "What's this card that you have here? This Jordan atomic refractor thing, blah, blah, blah."
Too shiny.
Yeah, the super shiny one.
Yeah.
And he started to explain to me the levels. Well, unfortunately, my wife would say I have some OCD issues or something like that. So I always had to have the best of the best of the best.
Yeah.
And once I started to realize that, I realized, I put some parameters around it. Let me be specific.
I love it.
I put some parameters, meaning 1984 when he started to 1998. And really, it was really 97, 98, because in 98, it started to, I had about 900 cards in my collection, and I wanted one of every one of his cards. And then there were only 3 that I didn't have at that time. We could talk about that later. But the short story was I had all of the cards pretty much until that time. There was maybe a few oddballs that I was missing, but I had one of every card, and I became the source for the hobby, including the difficult ones. Now, did I have the one of ones that are out there, the Masterpiece, which just came out in 97, 98? Nobody had them. I had seen a photograph of one, and I copied that. But the problem with that is once the hobby went to one of one's Masterpiece cards, that kind of diminished the chance of getting the cards, because some kid 7 years old and cracked a pack and threw them out.
Yeah.
So as long as there were, and the other thing that happened is in 98, 99, specifically, Jordan's cards went from having 900 through his entire collection to just 900 that year.
Easily.
And it kind of tainted the taste of getting them all. I wasn't then going to be able to collect them all. And it wasn't so much the money issue. Matter of fact, everybody I was seeing on eBay, it didn't matter what they bid, I was winning.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I've been there. I've been on tilt like that, Lou. It's funny you say that. Lou,
during that time, there was only nobody was beating me during that time, except there was one guy who came up, but I won't mention his name.
What, you don't want to mention his name? This was your nemesis? This is your nemesis?
Yeah, I don't give any enemy any. I can't say he's an enemy. I don't give.
Even to this day, here we
You
are.
know,
We're a decade later. You don't want to give him any credit for winning auctions against you on eBay.
no,
Yeah, fair enough. Look, it's funny, Lou,
I'm
because
I'm still a little bitter.
a little bitter. You
But
talk about 1998. Lou, I just did a video and we were trying to identify what do you really think Michael Jordan's playing years are, because he had the Wizards, he had the 2 retirement years, and then really the big year is 98, because that's when Upper Deck started chasing the money and they printed the hell out of everything.
Yeah,
And a lot of us think that they kind of ruined it. You know, they just kind of overprinted everything, chasing the dollar. And it became a, kind of a thing you had to wrestle with, is like, do I even want to collect 98? But then there are some amazing cards in 1998 as well. But, Upper Deck made these Jordan only sets, and there'd be, they'd put serial number to 2300. Oh, also serial number to 230. Oh, also serial number to 23. And then every card in the set was Michael Jordan, and it was like, what are we doing here? So a lot changed that year. So I'm glad you mentioned that. Another thing you mentioned, and this is brilliant and it's clippable, is you said at the end of Jordan's career, when he was finishing up those 2 Wizards years, it was a little bit of a lull in the hobby, a lull in the Jordan, and not quite the same reverence that we have for him today. And I tell people, and I'm not comparing these 2 players because I don't want to offend you or anybody out there, but like, we're seeing the same thing with LeBron James.
Sure.
People are like, I'm over it. I'm over it. He ain't that good. He's not that good. Well, he's 40 and he can't, put his butt on the rim anymore. And he's not the best player in the world, but he's still really good.
Yeah.
And so his cards are also experiencing the same lull. And I try to explain to people that happens to every single player, no matter how good they are. You're old enough, like me, to remember Kareem. At the end of Kareem's career, he was a fossil, Lou. He was barely trudging up and down the court. He couldn't lift his feet off the floor. People were like, oh, all he has is a hook shot. And they forgot about the 15 years of absolute, utter dominance where he wreaked havoc on the NBA. It happens to every single player. It happened to Kobe. Nobody wanted Kobe cards. He was terrible at the end of his career. And then, he had the great last game, but he killed the Lakers. And then a couple years go by, and then everybody's like, I got to go get Kobe cards. You just have to let that time pass, and then everything changes. The whole narrative changes.
It's the natural progression of being a player or being in any sport. The real key is you have to know when to stop.
Yeah.
And you've been told you're the best for so long that you just don't want to stop. So, and you love it because, who doesn't like when you're getting told you're the best? I mean, it's just a nice feeling. So if you're getting all those warm fuzzies, if for me, I grew up in Chicago, so it was, I should probably even take a step back. So when the business started to grow, I had 3 choices.
Okay.
I had either Walter Payton,
Okay.
Tiger Woods, or Michael Jordan. That's what I came up with. I said, I can't get all my baseball cards back. I mean,
Sure.
I knew that was done and over, and I just had too many, and it would cost me too much to get the cards back that I had, especially in the conditions they were in. So I had to pick one of the 3, and I picked the right guy. I picked Jordan, and then I went, all out. So
yeah, it's fascinating that you transitioned from a collection to hyper focusing on a player PC, like a personal collection of a particular player. When you did that transition and you chose Jordan out of Peyton and Tiger and Jordan, and you chose Jordan, did you go just full out Jordan, nothing else? You didn't mess with Kobe. You didn't mess with any other basketball players, no vintage, no, just Jordan.
Yeah.
Sprint to the finish line.
I had been talking about Michael Jordan since the first time I saw him play.
Yeah.
And I'm saying professionally, I really didn't.
The first time you saw him, what game was that? You remember?
First of all, I used to watch. I always enjoyed basketball, and I enjoyed. In Chicago, we had. Think of the same time period. We had Walter Payton, and I mean that was.
I know
he was the god of Chicago during that time, and Michael Jordan was not the god of Chicago at that time. So it took a little while for Michael to pull that off. But when he came out and the way he was dominating the league, and even in the early games, people weren't paying attention, but I was paying attention. And I had a girlfriend at the time who was a huge Larry Bird fan.
Oh, yeah.
And she would rub it in my face. And she'd say, he ain't Bird. And I'm like, he ain't, but you keep watching.
Keep watching.
So it was, certain moments in your life kind of shape who you are.
Sure. No doubt.
So that inspiration of, you ain't got it. And I'm like, no, I think I got the guy.
Yeah. Well, look, people forget, even the media narrative was he could put up the numbers, but he can't win. He's not a team player. He's not this. And that wasn't just like a year or two, right? That wasn't like a year. That was like a damn near 7 years.
That discussion, it was kind of funny because once I picked him, I just continued to study who he was, and it was just, in my opinion, just amazing what he was able to accomplish. And anyway, I've met Walter Payton. I'd never met Tiger Woods, so I thought, well, if I never met Tiger Woods, why would I collect his cards? And I met Walter Payton, and I really liked him, and I said, well, it's either him or Mike. And I actually met Mike one time in the locker room. So I felt like there was somewhat a connection, but just his overall ability to. The other thing was this: when you're playing football, there's 11 guys on the field.
You got a mask on. You got a helmet.
And when you're playing basketball, there's, you got a much better chance to dominate the game because you're only trying to beat 5 players versus another 11. So I kind of just put all these pieces together, and that's how it happened. But once, and he had that smile, and he had charisma, and kind of what you see is what you get. I mean, he didn't seem like he wasn't the same guy on TV that I met in the locker room. There wasn't a conversation. It was just, I saw him, and, I was in the locker room, and I had a friend of mine, by the way, who was on the board of his father was on the board of directors of the Bulls and the White Sox.
Okay.
So I was able to get on the field for both of those, and I had really good seats in the 80s for all of his games.
That's pretty cool. I
mean, it was actually about 3 seats behind the bench.
That's impressive.
Do
you remember your first big Jordan car? So it's around 2002 where you put head down and started sprinting to the finish line. Around 2002-ish, something like that, 2, 3, something.
So it's 2004, and eBay is really, the juggernaut was eBay, because eBay was now giving me access to cards across the globe.
That's right.
One of my a couple of my purchases that were big purchases were in Austria, and these were cards that were like 1 of 9.
Yeah. Credentials now, I'm assuming you're talking about. That's the only one I can think of.
Well, when you're talking about eBay at that time and you're sending money to them, you may not get anything back. So, I mean, that's the same today, but
that one.
Yeah.
Look, I was saving this. This is the eye candy, Lou.
Yeah, that one was in Austria. Yeah.
Yeah. Do you remember what you paid? This is going to make this video X-rated.
I'd rather not say that, but the short story is, it was, today that's a nice house in Scottsdale, and
it's $1 million card today.
And at the time it was
not.
Well, let me put it this way. It cost me. It was about half of a Honda.
Okay, I was going to ask you, half of a used Honda, half of a new Honda. It doesn't matter.
Yeah,
the fact of the matter is, there's a lot more zeros today.
It was a Honda then, but here's the funny story. Before I bought that card, this guy had another card that was a 1 to 74.
Oh my God, the Golden Boss refractor.
Yeah, and I bought that first because that was my test to see if I could spend that much and throw it away and not have to worry about it.
Yeah.
And then it came back. And by the way, those cards were not graded.
Yeah. So you're just assuming they're real. Like, did they have counterfeit issues back then? Because now we got to worry a lot about counterfeit issues. And look, Lou, sometimes even when it's in a BGS slab, we got to worry about counterfeits. I mean, sometimes graded cards are counterfeited, and we don't. We need experts. Did y'all have that issue?
Well, going back. There, we still had the population report. So, there were, and you knew every one of those. I mean, now grading's everything.
Yeah.
But back then it wasn't necessarily everything. Matter of fact, there were cards, this will sound like blasphemy. There were cards that I had that were 9.5s that wouldn't fit in my holders on my office. So I would cut them out with a Dremel tool,
Oh,
put them on my wall.
you're giving me chills. I don't like to hear it. I know where you're going, but I don't like to hear it. I know
Yeah.
I'm OCD like you. It needs to fit, but hold on now. We got to draw lines here.
Well, the line was finally drawn when I saw two cards. I saw an ungraded card sell for about $250, and I saw a 9.5 sell for $500.
Yeah.
And that ended it because I had the 9.5 of that card. And it got regraded and it was a 9.5 again. So, I mean, there was no harm, no foul, but
Sure. So
yeah,
tell me this. So
yeah.
so your eBay obviously changed the world. It changed the way Lou collected it. It gave you the ability to
I had
make
access.
that
I had access to everywhere.
everything.
Now.
Yeah, of course. And I'm
So I no
from
longer-
Austria. There's
yeah.
some great Jordan collectors in Austria, believe it or not. There's a bunch of them in Austria. Australia now
they're
is
everywhere
huge.
now.
Australia is huge.
It could be anywhere. I mean,
could be
everybody
anywhere.
has a chance at them. So
Yeah.
at the time, eBay was relatively in its infancy, and cards were considered expensive at the time. But at the time, I was probably too foolish to know any better.
Yeah.
And I just knew enough to say, this is one I don't have, and it's the top version of that. And I would, really eyeball the card as like what the condition was going to be. So it was a combination of people not just really taking grading to the next level. They weren't there. Jordan's popularity was low coming off the Wizards. eBay was fresh. There wasn't a huge amount of people on eBay like there are now.
Yeah.
And it was just, it was the combination. And so for those probably 8 years from about 2000, during those 8 years, it probably wasn't until about 2011 that someone outbid me.
Yeah.
And that
Hey, this ain't fun. What is this? What is this competition nonsense?
Let me rephrase that. I had people who would outbid me. And there was a time at eBay you can contact them.
Yeah.
So I would contact them.
How'd you like to make 250 profit?
I would just
Send me
I
the
would
cards.
contact them, and I could. Well, it was almost kind of the opposite. I would contact them and say, if you do that to me again, you're not going to win.
Call your shot.
That's what I was saying. I said,
Yeah.
but then I would say, so we can be friends about this.
Yeah.
You can share your collection with me and I can help you, or we're going to compete. So what do you want? And every one of them wanted to be friends.
That's awesome. That's great.
So I didn't have anybody who said, no, I'm going to compete with you. And I'm not saying that to be boastful, but it was just when I knew there was a card that I didn't have. There were lots of cards that I did have that were going off on eBay that were really valuable cards. I just already had it. So I wasn't, like, for example, if it was like precious metals or something like that. And I was like, I got that. So
got it. You never messed with duplicates. You were always looking for the next unique.
That was the key too. I let people know that, look, I will be your friend. I'm not here to harm you.
Yeah.
But I really don't want you to harm me either. So let's be friendly about this, and let's collect. I'll help you get yours. You help me get mine. And so, it was really, treat others the way you want to be treated.
Yeah, there's tons of cooperation now. Instagram, really, Facebook has shed a light on the community and brought a lot of people from all over the world together, even more so than eBay, to where now, I can tell you, 50% of my friends' collection because I'm friends with them on my Instagram, but I may never have met them in person. And so there's a lot of ability to kind of circumvent and do some nefarious things, but it also gives you the ability to work in teams and kind of use each other and share each other. So you got so many eyeballs out there. I can't tell you, Lou, and I got a big mouth, obviously, but how many people out there will shoot me a message and say, hey, man, I saw your last mail day video. You mentioned you have this, but you don't have the gold medallion. I've found one. I'm at a card show in, freaking New Mexico. Do you want me to get it for you and you can pay me back? And I'm like, that's the kind of stuff that makes the hobby fun, Lou, is when people are looking for cards for you. And I do the same. We reciprocate. It's really cool, man.
Well, the communication level wasn't the same back then.
No way.
Yet at the same time, it was better. Meaning the fact that I can contact people on eBay. Now, not only can I find cards across the across the globe,
Yeah.
but now I can also connect with you across the globe. So
That's right.
once they took away my power from connecting to people, and um, the shops that I were going to locally very quickly ran out of cards I was looking for.
Yeah.
So I knew it was a global scale, and eBay was that opportunity, and eBay
Yeah.
was pretty much wide open at the time. It was the Wild West, but now it's regulated, and you have to share to you have to verify your eye retina or something. I
Right.
don't know.
Right. Yeah.
It's getting too complicated.
It's going to get a lot more complicated in the next few
Probably.
years. Lou, did you ever rip wax? Did you ever open packs looking for Jordan cards, or did you just
No.
know better? Yeah, you knew better. Thank you. I'm so glad you said that. Yeah, that's not the way, right? We know Jordan has pack odds, right? And so you've got pack odds, and you can look at the back and
Well,
see, oh, look,
well, let me take one
not a
step.
good way to find your Jordan.
Well, let me take one step back. There were definitely books at the time that were sharing the difficulty of finding a card. For example, it would say you have a 1 in 72 chance of getting this card, or
Sure.
1 in 360 packs. So I just did the mathematical odds because I'm a business guy really by nature.
Real simple.
So for me, I looked at it and I said, how many packs and how much money would it cost me to rip open packs to find this card? So let's just say it was the jambalaya card or something like that.
Like
It was like
10,200 or something. Yeah.
1 out of 920 different packs you'd have to open. And if I could buy that card at the time for $400, $500, $600, and the packs were $1 a pack, I'm like, this is a tremendous savings. I'm not searching, I'm not looking, and I'm getting it coming right to my front door. I mean, this is tremendous.
That's they call that rationalization. You're telling yourself, I just got this thing at half price. Of course it's worth $500.
It's funny you say that. That's exactly the way I looked at it. And it was just doing mathematical logic.
Do you remember the first card that made you uncomfortable? The first card where you purchased a card for an amount where you were like, well, it's shit, I'm all in now. This is a lot of money. This makes me a little bit uncomfortable.
Whenever and it wasn't the first card, but whenever I sent money overseas, you were risking you're not getting that money back.
Yeah.
So that happened multiple times, but my nature is I like to trust people. That whether that's good or bad, I don't know. I just kind of trust you, and you can wreck it for me later. But I just kind of like people and trust people. So I tend to want to. And here's the other key, I think, is that I actually can celebrate, Brian, when you get a card.
Yeah.
So, sometimes people get a card and they go, oh man, Brian's got that card. Damn, I wanted that one. See, I was never like that. I was always like, man, I'm excited you got that card. Yeah. I was never jealous about that. Let me tell you one story that came up. There was a card that I had that was the Antonio McDyess error card.
Dude, you read my mind. I was just about to talk to you about that card. You remember you offered it to me. You had the 9.5, and I was like, Lou, I can't even remember what I bought. I just remember I turned you down on that, and you were like, you really should probably buy this card. It's very rare. And I was like, I'm not into the error cards. I'd rather just get the real one. And you're like, I'm telling you, Brian, you should probably get this card. And I think you wanted to sell it to me for like $2,500 or something like that. And I was like, it seems a little steep. This is 5 years ago, right? When we first did our deal. And I remember rejecting that. I don't remember what I bought, but I remember saying no to you on that card. And if I had a time machine, Lou, I would go back and say yes. Is it too late?
There's so many people where I would get what I call a duplicate card, and I would offer them. I remember I had the Tahoe card, the Jordan golf
heavy hitters,
card.
yeah.
And I had a guy who was a huge golf fan and a huge Jordan collector, and I go, "Why are you not buying this card for me?"
Rare.
And he just said no, and I sold it on eBay for twice what I think I offered it to him for $2,000, and I sold it for $5,000 or something like that. So I mean, I was trying to help people with their collections, and it was up to them whether they wanted to believe me or not. Sure. And I could be wrong, right? I mean, things can change and things like that. But I wasn't.
Lou, let
me pause this for a second. Through the grace of God, I was right when I picked Jordan and the other stuff. So
you definitely picked. You'd have been fine with the other two, but not like this. I mean, this is life changing kind of stuff.
This is better than gold. Yeah.
Yes. Oh
Yeah.
my
He's
God.
better
Yes,
than
of course.
Costabile. Yeah.
You can't. What are you gonna stare at a bar of gold for
Yeah,
hours upon hours every day? Hell no,
that's no
Lou.
fun. That's no
Let's go
fun.
with the goat. So two questions. Number one, when you dove into Jordan around
Wait.
2002,
Your audience is going to say he didn't finish the story on the
oh,
dice card.
oh, and the McDice. We're talking about the McDice Hollow Views error with
Yeah,
McDice in the background. Yeah, go ahead, finish.
so just like today, I will get emails and people will give me thoughts on, this one guy was in Philadelphia and he says, "Hey, I've got this card that I see that you had online. Can you tell me about it?"
Yeah,
So I explained to him, I said, "Go get them." And he had two of them.
yeah.
So apparently in Philadelphia, the boxes came out that had those. I think there were like,
That's where it was released more than
that's where
anywhere
it
else.
was released.
Man,
So he showed me two of them. I said, "Get those graded." So he got them graded. I had a 9. Okay. And his grades came back 2.95s.
yeah.
And that was one of those rare moments where I was like, man, I gave him some great advice.
You somehow ended up with a 9.5 because I remember you offered it to me and I said no.
Well,
I'm
stay with
positive.
me. Stay with me. So he called me back and he says, and he had a nice drawl. I can remember his drawl. He said, he goes, "Lou, I got those cards back. They both came back 9.5s." And I went, 9.5s, both of them? He goes,
Damn.
"Yeah, I'll show them to you." So he showed them to me. I said, "Here's what I'm gonna." He goes, "Will you help me sell them?" And I told him, I said, "Here's what I'm gonna do." I said, I asked him about his background. He says, "I'm a preaching man." And I said, "Well, I'll tell you what. You tell me if God would want you to have one for you and one for me." And he goes, "What?" I said, "Yeah, here's what I'm going to do." I said, "I believe that since I helped you, I'm going to send you my 9. You send me one of those 9.5s, and I'll help you sell your 9.5, and I'll help you sell your 9 because you need to buy a down payment on a house."
Yeah.
He says, "Lou, I'm going to put this in prayer." About 2 weeks later, a massive box that looks like a shirt came in, and it was his 9.5.
That's awesome. That could
And
have been mine.
I immediately FedExed him that 9, so he had it the next day.
Yeah. That's
And
awesome.
I helped him with the sale of that, and he sold it for I won't tell you the price because I don't think it's fair to him, but I sold it for the price that he got a down payment on his house.
That's awesome. That's really cool.
So he met his goal.
God's
I got
plan.
my goal.
That's it. That's it.
That's a good example of everybody winning.
Yeah. Win-win.
And apparently God talked to him. So
2003, God talks to us and we collect Jordan cards. 2003, Beckett or PSA? Who was the king of grading?
Oh, Beckett.
By far, right?
First of all,
Tell us about that.
Let me talk about a little bit about grading for just a second. Because you heard me say that I was taking cards out of grade holders.
Yeah.
Really, 2000, it was Beckett. And Beckett held that until probably the last 2-3 years. And why? Well, number one, first of all, one of the cards that wasn't being graded was Jordan's, they call it the X rookie, the
Star 101. Yeah.
So at the time it was, the person who was grading that card was GAI.
Yeah, I remember.
And the guy behind that was Steve Taft.
Yep.
And Steve, I still consider him a friend of mine. I mean, I haven't talked with him in years, but we would see each other at the big shows and we'd talk for a long time and we knew each other quite well. And finally, when Beckett finally decided GAI's contract expired with Steve and he went over to Beckett and PSA was not grading that card, then they actually had graded a few and then they said, we can't figure it out. Yeah. So we're not grading them. And then Beckett took over. There's an interesting thing happened with that. And I'll let your viewers, because they probably don't know this history, but when the first Beckett 101s came out, there were no 9s.
Yeah.
Forget about 9.5s.
Yeah, I know.
There were no 9s for about 2 years. And everybody was cracking those holders of their GIAs. And I'm,
and mailing team bags, cutting team bags open and
grading.
We just went through this with the PSA.
I'm just going to give you the facts.
Yeah.
We'll let your viewers determine what happened. And then amazingly, all of a sudden, after about 2 years, all of a sudden a few 9s came out.
Yeah.
And then just for a very short time period, maybe a year and a half after that, 3 9.5s. There's only still 3 9.5s from
That's
that
right.
time period came out, and a few more. I think there's like 69 nines that came out.
Yeah.
So it started for two plus years, no nines. And the reason why is the card's well off center.
It's always left or right. Yes, it's horrible.
It,
Yeah.
and
Amongst other issues, but yeah, that's
yeah,
that left or right's the problem, right?
yeah,
Yeah.
but I just say that, and it's not recently until all of a sudden, PSA is now grading the card, and I'm not really sure why people gravitate. So, oh my God, PSA is grading it. A PSA 9 is worth more than a Beckett 9.5. I don't know.
It's a lot of chaos. There's a lot of grading incongruencies in the hobby, not just with that card, but there's also been a lot of hype and a lot of talk about that particular card
Well,
recently
I
with
mean,
PSA grading.
I don't want to get into grading. I want to stick with Jordan, but I mean,
Yeah.
there's cards that, you grade as an 8.5, you crack it out of a holder, it gets a 9, and then there's other times you crack it out of a
All the
holder and it gets an 8,
and vice versa. It goes down sometimes
yeah,
too.
like I said,
It's
you get
chaos.
an 8.5 goes to an 8. So
It's chaos right
there's
now.
no,
Yeah.
you could pull out of a Beckett 9.5 holder and it gets an 8.5, and you can pull it out of a Beckett 9 holder and it gets a 9.5,
Yeah.
9 in PSA. So
Lou, at the peak, 2010, 11, whenever you're at the peak of your powers,
probably
what percentage of your
2012,
collection
2012.
2012. What percentage was Beckett BGS slabs? What percentage was PSA slabs? What percentage was raw?
Well, I was since 2000 was when Beckett started. Everything was Beckett graded for me.
Okay, so if you bought a card in a PSA slab,
it was baseball. If it was baseball, it'd be PSA. But I only had an interest in the only other baseball card once I just got rid of my collection that I had an interest in was 33 Gaudy Babe Ruths.
Yeah, those are awesome. Those are awesome. You would crack PSA slabs. If you happen to see something on eBay, you don't have a card, and you see it's in a PSA slab, you'd buy it, crack it, put it in Beckett, or you wouldn't leave it in PSA? This is blowing people's minds, right? Keep in mind, everybody that's new to this hobby, like in the last, 5 years, is like, I don't even know. They don't even know what BGS is. They're like, What do you mean you're cracking PSA slabs?
Yeah. So, you have to understand, back in that time, everything wasn't a Beckett holder. It wasn't in a PSA holder. I mean, nobody wanted a basketball card in a PSA holder.
Yeah. You didn't grade everything though. I mean, if you picked up a raw, a badass raw card, like if you had, a super badass card, did you send everything to Beckett? Were you 100% graded Jordan cards?
So I didn't have everything graded. No.
Yeah.
So, but let's take one major step back, kind of like when people started to know who I was, and not that it's hard to get today. It's very easy to get to know who you are because you could put cards online.
Yep.
Back then, there was really like no YouTube.
Yeah.
So you weren't putting cards online. There was no Instagram. There was none of that. So the only way that people kind of knew you was you stopped at a convention and people started to talk to you. And so a couple of things were happening. Number one was Jordan retired, right? And it was ready for the Hall of Fame. And now we're talking 2009. And I knew that was just like how The Last Dance kind of propelled some of the cards. I knew that the moment was for me to announce myself, if you will. There was a convention in Chicago. I contacted Beckett directly. I talked to their person in charge of marketing and grading. And I said to them, I'm going to be bringing my collection to Chicago. And when I bring my collection to Chicago, I am guaranteeing you that you will never see one person walk in with this many Jordan cards that need to be graded at one time.
Mm-hmm.
I said, it'll never happen again. And as soon as I said that, I piqued his attention because they were starting to put together a Hall of Fame book. So they immediately got me in contact with their magazine.
Yeah.
And said, this guy's got to be in there, that we just saw something come in that we've never
He's either
seen.
crazy or he's the real deal.
Crazy.
He could be crazy and the real deal. He could be both. Yeah.
It was both. Yeah.
Yeah.
It was a little bit like Charles Barkley saying, whatever. So, but yeah, they knew I was a little crazy, but but then I came in and backed it,
Yeah.
So when I came in and backed it, I started to have, I was scanning cards, and I scanned a few cards for them to see what I was talking about. And they were like, whoa. So, and here's an interesting stat for you, for all your little grading friends out there. When I sent them 50 cards.
Okay.
27 of them, when I came back, were the highest grade Beckett had ever graded.
Wow. That's your eye to detail, man. That's you buying those on eBay, checking the scans, buying the
Yeah.
best of the
So
best. That's like a testament to you.
I was pretty proud of that.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, that's awesome. Of course, they also had, an incentive to be, stay friends with you, of course.
Well, I mean,
that's fine. That's part of the game, I guess.
Some of the guys there were, we did Tracy Heckler did an interview with me, and Tracy later went on to Panini. I'm not sure where he's at right now.
Yeah.
He was just going over to Panini at the time. And, yeah, it was, it wasn't as friendly as it is now, only because the accessibility wasn't there. It wasn't that you didn't want to be more friendly. It's that we didn't have FaceTime. We didn't have a lot of the benefit. We didn't have what we're doing right now.
Yeah. Well, even if you wanted, if you wanted to say, I want to make 100 friends who collect Michael Jordan, it might take you a decade to do that. You'd have to see them at shows. Yeah. And now I can literally just click follow, and I don't, but people follow you, you follow them, and it just grows immeasurably. And it's crazy how much back and forth communication, and it's really helpful. It's really fun to share your cards and show people. Some people think it's like ostentatious. No, it's fun. When you pick up a card, you want to tell people what you got, and you want to tell them why you picked up that card, and then there's always going to be people who want to know, more importantly, what did you pay for it? Because there's the investor types out there as well. And I consider myself a hybrid. You sound like a hybrid. You sound like a deranged OCD hybrid, just like I am. Whereas I'm trying to do A, B, C, D, Z, A through Z, and it's going to take me however long it takes me. I am sprinting until I get to Z, and this is how I do things, and everything's got to look the right way. I'm the exact same way, man.
You've got a problem.
I've got a problem, but it's nice when your addiction is an appreciating asset.
I call it a passion. My wife calls it a problem. Yeah.
Hey, look, they both start with P. It's fine. Here's what I want to show people, and I'm going to screen share here real quick.
Sure.
This is Lou's website, and this is absolutely phenomenal, fascinating resource. Any of you guys out there who watch my channel, who stay up with what I'm doing, this is a resource where you need to go put this in your favorites on your web browser. I know you had some help in putting this together by a tech savvy person that I'll let you talk about in just a second. But this is awesome because you work your way sort of chronologically, Lou, through the years where you've got like kind of a blurb on each year and what happened. And it's amazing because it's right spot on. It's like 84, the stars were out, star cards were everything, and then star again. But then 86 shows up and it's like, oh my God, now it's the most famous card in the world. And then you've got 92 where inserts start to show up and things like that. I'm going to work through your page and your cards, and I'm just going to pull a card on the screen, and I just want you to tell me.
Let me do this before we do that. Minimize that so I can talk to you again.
Sure. Yeah.
So one of the things that you have to understand in the background of this, and I'm not trying to sound like, an idiot here, but well, I am going to sound like an idiot. So, interestingly, when I decided to put this together, all right, I scanned the front. Let me take one step back. There's a book, and I think I have it behind me. I don't see it, but it was the inspiration to this website was there was a book by Topps called Collecting Baseball from 1958 to I think it was 1985. And you opened it up and it did just that. It said, here's what happened in 1952 and here's Topps. And it showed the front of every card.
Yeah.
Now, being a card collector, I knew that I wanted to see the back of every card too, because the backs are extremely interesting. They've got some statistics. Sometimes they have that little, something about
corny narrative, right? Yeah, serial numbering. There's a lot of reasons you need to see the back.
Or it says super refractor on the back or something that doesn't say on the front. So I knew that book was like a miss to me because I wanted to see the backs of every card too. And I know it would have been twice as thick. But I said, I've always been a believer that I want to give you more than you can get on your own. So I wanted to give you the front and back of every card. And then as I got better cards, I would just upload the newest, this is now a Beckett 9 before I had an 8.5. So I just had a chance to upload, and it was a chance to keep all my cards. The interesting, sad, or fun story behind it was I go back to the OCDs thing. I was scanning cards for, but surprisingly, 23 days.
Yeah.
From 6 in the morning until 11 at night.
Yeah.
I was unshaven. I was probably greasy. I don't want to get TMI, but, and my wife would come in, but by like day 11, the cat looked like Michael Jordan. My wife looked like Michael Jordan. My hand looked like Michael Jordan.
Right.
I was scanning so many Michael Jordan cards. I was literally like my tongue was like going like, not like hitting, not like Jordan like that, but like, I'm getting so sick of Michael Jordan. And I wasn't sick of him, but that project to get that done was it was like running a marathon for 23 straight days. I mean, it was pretty sick. So anyway, the reason why I even mentioned that before we do this is, if people are kind enough, I don't ask anybody, there's no contract or things like that. If they ask me, I usually ask them, tell me about your passion, tell me about your collection. And, if they want to send me something on PayPal for the effort, I appreciate that. But, it's just the same way I'm sharing with you, you could share with me. I don't force anybody to give me anything, but I just mentioned that. But I just want people to know how much I care about the card hobby. We all do it for a reason. All right, go ahead. Sorry.
It's really funny because the words coming out of your mouth, and we're not the same person. And I really, honestly, we didn't really know each other very well before you just came on this channel. We exchanged messages and got some deals done.
Sure.
But your thought process, your approach to what you did, the first thing out of your mouth was you established parameters. Okay. I say that all the time. If you don't, Michael Jordan will eat you alive.
It's like gambling. You got to know your limits.
It is. And then you said you wanted the best copy of everything. Well, that's exactly how I collect. And then you said you wanted to put something together that you could share with people to educate them and give them something in the future. Have you heard of the hierarchy thing by any chance?
Tell me what you mean.
I created something called the Michael Jordan hierarchy.
Yeah.
Okay. So I mean, this is essentially, in a nutshell, your website, except it's not my collection. It's the collection I wish I had, but you put your collection on that website while I put together the ultimate collection. Like if somebody could, but of course we had to make rules, right? There's no autographs, there's no patches, there's no foreign cards, there's no blah, blah, blah. Right.
Well, that's another thing too. I had all the autograph cards too.
Yeah.
The only autograph that I didn't have, as I think about it, well, 2 cards that I didn't have. One of them that's not mentioned there, not listed, and very rare, is there was an Olympic card.
Yeah. The gold one. It's gold.
95, I believe.
Yes. And I know exactly what you're talking about. He's wearing an Olympic jersey, Lou, but it doesn't say USA on it.
I had seen that card during the time I was collecting just a few times.
Yeah.
And when I'm saying a few, like 2.
Yeah.
And it was one of those cards where it wasn't mainstream enough for me to be interested in it versus, an Upper Deck or, usually it was Upper Deck that was signed cards. So I'm trying to think if there was anything else besides.
Lou, this is it, right?
Yeah, that's it.
I knew it. Yeah. That card last sold for $210,000, Lou, in a 6.5. Yeah. It's very, very rare. Very rare.
Yeah. Well, I mean, people know more about it now.
Yeah.
But back when I was collecting, that card was really kind of unpopular and unknown at the time.
Yeah. It's kind of ugly. I mean, it's not even really licensed. I mean, it's a U.S. Olympic.
Yeah, do you have a shot of the back of that one by chance?
No, I can't pull the back up.
Yeah. All right. So anyway, I say that to say that, first of all, thanks for sharing that one. And the other one that I didn't have was the 97, 98, 1 of 23, the jersey. Yeah. So that was on my list. I talked about the 3 cards I didn't have. That was one of the cards I didn't have. And that was one of the cards that changed my mind on keep collecting, because I saw that go for a price that was very high, in my opinion, at the time.
Yeah.
And that let me know that, that's it. And that let me know that I probably wouldn't be able to collect all the cards, at least at my current status. And let me define that for a minute without jeopardizing my family.
Yeah, exactly. Or without, no, Lou, not just without jeopardizing your family, but I get this question all the time: is, hey, if you could buy a PMG green, or if you had access to a PMG green, a Precious Metal Gems green, would you trade your whole collection for it? And my answer every single time is no, I would not. I absolutely would not. There's too much work put into it. And I can't stare at one card all day long, but I can flip through my thousands of Jordan cards all the time and get joy out of it and kind of appreciate the journey. I would not trade it for one card.
Well, you're hitting a great topic, Brian, which is the fun factor.
Yeah.
Right. And the fun, and let's not be stockbrokers. Let's actually, like, for example, some of the cards that I have kept are cards that people would think, Lou, that's like a $6 card. Like, for example, the Stadium Club where he's dunking over Patrick Ewing.
Yep.
That's the one where he's, going out of bounds, one of the hoops cards, and he's got his tongue out and he's dominating people that way. So, and what I mean by jeopardizing my family is, why would I take my son's college fund and put it towards a card?
Yeah.
That's a card. There's where he's going off.
Yeah.
And it's, that's exactly the card. But so my point is that, that's such an incredible picture, right? I mean, to have Patrick Ewing going the wrong way.
Well, he deserved it, Lou. I mean, let's be real.
Well, actually, it's kind of funny. I was watching one of the, I've got all the Jordan videos, and I was watching one of the videos, and I think that was in '92, and you can actually see that shot being taken because there was a flash, like when the screen's going and there was a flash. And that shot, you can actually see that shot. When I paused it, that was the shot. You were getting it from a different angle. But I mean, there's that one. There's other great cards that he has. And some of the cards are just cool looking.
Hey, we got to go. Lou, we're at 50 minutes. People want to see your freaking collection. We got to talk about your cards.
Yeah, whatever you want to talk about.
Let's talk about your cards. Like, we're burying the lead here. I want you to tell me what I'm showing you on the screen. Start with this one. I know your feelings about this card. This is like the greatest centered star 101 I've ever seen in my life. It's like perfect.
So let's talk about that card. That was, first of all, understand that there were no nines at the time. So this was probably like one of five at the time, and there were no 9.5s at that time. So I was a huge stickler for centering. Yeah. And I know that it's not a 9.5, and there is a little bit of a fractional mark in the corner. So it's probably graded properly as an 8.5 in the corner. But to give that thing the centering of a 9 is insane, because
this is too good for a 9. This is the best I've seen. I'm no expert on star.
I've seen the 9.5s, and I would not say that this card center wise is not better than those. So it's funny you say that, but I was waiting for you to ask me, are there any cards that I still have? And
that was the last question I was going to ask you. Show me.
Wait, there.
No. Dude, you do know what that's worth right now, right?
I never got rid of that one just because I've never seen, it goes back to the fun factor, believe it or not. It goes back to the fun factor that I know that that's the best not centered 9 I've ever seen. And believe it or not, the other cards, they didn't mean as much to me, but his first card being that centered and in that holder, but I trade it for a 9.5. I don't know. I'd have to see the 9.5. If it was slightly, if the centering was 9 and everything else was 9.5, probably not.
Yeah. Look, for example, here's the example they use on this card ladder page. Sorry, I'm not screen sharing. There's the example they use on the card ladder page. Look how off center left to right. See how right's thick, left's thin? Yeah, yours is just banging, man. Yeah, right on it, Lou. Yeah, you know what that card's worth today, right?
What's it worth today?
There's your number. About 150, 160. Yours is probably worth more because it's exceptionally well centered.
So, well, hopefully, I mean. Yeah.
All right, card number two. Card number 2. This worries me. It worries me you didn't have a 10.
Boy, that card was a pain in my rear end. You're hitting a sensitive spot with this card, because I had people who had 10s, and I actually had a Beckett 9 of this card, and I cracked it to get this in a PSA 9 and they gave me an 8.5.
Yeah.
And I was like,
Which is like
oh.
hard to get. Like they never give half grades ever. Yeah.
And so I was so frustrated with this card. And it's one of those elusive cards and it goes back to, I'm obviously eye appeal,
Yeah.
which means there are some 10s out there that, to your point, Brian, are not centered.
Yep.
And I'm like, how can you give that a 10 when you could see that the left to right is off?
Yeah.
Or the top and bottom is off. So that was one of the cards that eluded me. So if anybody's got a PSA 10 and feels sorry for me and wants to send it to me, feel free to do that.
Well,
Lou,
you're not going to believe
your
this.
story. You never had this card. Here's your card.
3 weeks ago, I sold my PSA 10 3 weeks ago. So
how'd you do on that?
I did fine. I did. I mean, obviously, I bought it for much, much less around 2019. So I did great. And I've already spent all the money back on other Jordan stuff. So
you know what? That's the beauty of the hobby.
Yeah.
I mean, I should talk about this for a second too.
Yeah.
I would look at a collection for people and I would say, look, I'm going to help you with your collection. I'm going to sell your collection for you, but I want these 4 cards. And nobody ever had a problem with that. They were like, Lou, take the 4 cards you want. You did all this work. I mean, it was barter, right? It was knowledge for effort. So
sure.
Knowledge for you're going to pay me instead of paying me. Just I'll do it in cards. So, what else did you want to talk about? I'm happy to answer.
Keep going. Well, I'm working my way chronologically through your collection. I can't pull everything. I wish I could, but
I think there's
we'll keep going. We talked about this one. Sorry, let me get you on screen share. We talked about this one, just rare as hell, and you've got the 10, right? I've got a buddy who's got a 10. There can't be too many of those out there.
No. That was an interesting card. There was a guy who wrote a book called Collecting Michael Jordan, and he knew me, and I had met him, and he says, Lou, I've got this Caesar's Palace card you probably don't have. It was almost like a dare.
Yeah.
I said, show me the card.
I bet you don't have it.
Yeah. And I said, show me the card. I said, no, you're right. I don't have it. So I probably shouldn't say the price, but he sold it to me for a very reasonable price.
Yeah.
And more so because we knew each other. We wanted to help each other. And he sold me that. And then I sent it in. And I can remember that was one of those odd cards. At the time, I could talk to Beckett. And I called him up and I said, hey, how'd that, it was like customer service. I said, hey, I sent this card in. Could you tell me what that graded as?
Yeah.
And she said, well, I can tell you. I said, please. She goes, 10. And I didn't register. I went, yeah, so what did it grade at? And she goes, 10. And then finally at register, because I just thought, the conversation was so normal that she wasn't, and I was like, wait a minute, that's the highest grade at this point.
That's it. Yeah. Look,
So
here's your popping for it. Yeah.
It was pretty special when that happened.
There's only 9 PSA 10.
That kind of made up for me missing the Gem Mint. I don't know if anything if there's a card that I still want today, it's probably a Gem Mint Flare rookie, only because it's one of the cards I didn't have that I really would have liked to have.
Next one. This is the one when people ask me about.
I love that card.
Yeah. People ask me, hey, I want to get into collecting Jordan inserts and parallels from the 90s. I say, start here. Here, 93 Scoring Kings, 92 Beam Team. Start here, right? This is kind of the foundational piece. Now I'm showing a members only, which a lot of people won't know, but if you look closely, you'll see it's kind of embossed in there, but it's not foil, right? So
that's another thing. I wanted to collect not only the Beam Team, but the members only. So I wanted to have every card.
Same with me, Lou.
And Danny Age is looking up at him like, wow.
I wish I could do that.
That's one of those favorite cards that I still have. That's a great card you just showed there too.
Well, I want to tell you about this card because you may not know. I know grading has changed the game, and grading has almost become a priority over the cards themselves, which is a shame. But everybody's playing the game here. This is your Upper Deck MVP hologram, which is a great looking card, but not rare at all. Like a very inexpensive card. But what I wanted to show you is a PSA 9 right here is about a $180, $170, $180 card. What do you think a PSA 10 is, Lou?
Well, if it's probably going to go times 10. So
you almost nailed it. 7,500. That's times 50.
Yeah. So
is that crazy, Lou? That is crazy.
Yeah, I mean the card hobby and the insanity of it today. We no longer have card collectors; we have stockbrokers.
We do.
And if I could, we're not done necessarily, but one thing I'll continue to reiterate is it's got to be fun. If it wasn't
Yeah.
fun, I mean, for me, I watched as many games that the Bulls would play, and we would get together with friends' houses and we'd have pizza. And it was, we'd be yelling at the TV and we'd be, I mean, it was yelling in a positive way. I mean, it wasn't, it was all good, clean fun with, and, Michael Jordan was someone that, we were very proud of here in Chicago. And, you had Horace Grant, a working man, and Rodman came in later and kept the silliness going. And,
Yeah.
Pippen, was like another Doberman running up the side. So, I mean, it was,
Phil Jackson was just a therapist, man. That guy was just
Jackson was a
keeping it
therapist.
together.
I used to hate watching Will Purdue come into the game.
Yes, me too. And
Um,
Stacey King drove me crazy too. All those guys. He never had a center. And you could say Cartwright, but he never had a center. Think about that. He never had a real center. Winnington was probably the least harmful center he ever had. Maybe Luke Longley. I mean, but what are we talking about? Luke Longley is playing center in an era where you had Ewing and Robinson, Olajuwon and Doherty. And I mean, dude, go down the list. Longley was not a top probably 20 center in the league. And he was probably the best center he had.
I think there were knowing enough about the team back in the day. And I know that Mike's got the 6 rings and things like that, but I thought if I was a coach on some of the Utah teams, I thought there were ways to beat the Bulls.
Yeah.
But thankfully they didn't. And,
Nope.
the Last Dance and that last play, when they do the Last Dance, they're not showing any games from the Wizards, right? I mean, it's obviously the last year of the Bulls. So,
Sure.
yeah, it was a magical time, and I'm just happy to be able to. I love that card.
Yeah. Now, I don't know if you know, but recently, and this card's always the topic of conversation. Number one, it's rare as hell. Okay, so it's real tough to get the ZP parallel of this. But recently, and not too recently, but years ago, a bunch of these came in a shipment from Taiwan, is my understanding, to Beckett, and they were all fake. And Beckett graded all of them, didn't pick up on any of it. And so there is a large quantity of fakes of this card out there. So every time somebody wants to buy one of these cards, they message me and say, hey, is this real or fake? And of course I say, I have no idea. I don't trust myself. You got to go find an expert. But this is a great card. I think the original, I think this one's better looking. Me personally, it's brighter. It's more vibrant. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But the Z-Pete's just rare and super
the thing with that card that makes, you're absolutely right. It's the colors on that card. And then the fact with the die casting, the Netrageous card, I think it is, where it actually like opens up and it shows a basketball net and stuff like that. I mean, they were just doing some interesting things, besides just stamping it as, this is 1 of 10 or 1 of, 100. And the fact that they put kind of a refractive front on the front of that card, one of the cards that got very confusing, and I see cards that are misgraded all the time, were the Illuminators.
Oh, it's just to this day. Luminous, Luminescent, Illuminator, and then there's a members only copy of the Luminous. I mean, Lou, those cards confused the hell out of me. I finally did a video on it because it was for me, but I just hit record. It was like, I don't understand these damn things. I need them. I need to go understand it. And so I studied it. I went to Beckett and I asked some people around and they educated me and I put a video out. So
what I would suggest too with that one, Brian, is I've done a real good job of making sure that I properly list all 3 of those cards.
Yeah.
So if you went to that website, and that's one of the values is to, going to the website is to see that kind of stuff.
Yeah. This is like my hierarchy project on steroids. I mean, you are literally, it's way, way above and beyond. I mean, you're in the 900s. Here's a card that's really rare too. People don't appreciate. That's a card in the hierarchy, that Vortex card. Really hard to grade. Yours looks impeccably fantastic right here. We talked about, sorry, let me skip. We talked about this one here.
Go back to what you just showed.
Yeah. Flair Showcase.
Those were my favorite cards.
Good. I just finished the set.
Cards. I used to take real great pleasure in those cards. They were thicker than the normal card.
Yeah.
They had great color. Quick curious question for you. Have you ever seen one of the Masterpiece cards?
Yeah, Nat Turner's got it. I had him on the channel. He's got 4 Masterpiece 101s. he's kind of taken the baton from you and ran with it, right? And of course has help all over the world. And he's
Well,
the CEO.
I would say Nat's the man right now.
Yeah, he's the man right now, for sure, for sure. And there's others amazing collectors out there, but yeah, he's got a bunch of them. So I got a chance to see his. It looks like this, only it's purple, right? I mean, it's it's just, he thinks it's the most beautiful Jordan card out there. And there's a lot of options to choose from. So I'm not going to go that far, but
I mean, whatever it grades at, right? So whether it's a 6 or whether it's a 10 or whatever it is, because it's the only one. But yeah, the fact that it's his masterpiece, things like that. Yeah.
And it's the only, horizontal. Honest to God, I think the base Flair Showcase cards are incredible looking as well. They're base cards. But when you look at it, you're like, I feel like this card should be worth more. I know it's a base card, but God, it looks special. Yeah, this one we talked about. This is in my book. If you throw out the one of ones, I think this is the second best Jordan card in the world. Again, we're throwing out the autographs too. Obviously, game jersey auto 23 is a really big card. But if we just talk about inserts and parallels, I've got this Credentials Now that you had as one of my top 2 with the PMG green. These 2, I think, are the 2 that stand out.
Those are the 2. The one specifically about that one, this goes back to when I was back to the Jordan Hall of Fame and walked in. When I walked in with that one and they gave me a 9 on that was the highest grade of any of the cards that they had given at that point. So the fact that it was number 9 of 9, graded as a 9, where the other ones weren't at that high was, and I think they only have 5 of them graded right now. So that's probably all that there are in the world. There's 5 of the 9.
Yeah. This is an amazing card. I mean, and look, we're skipping past, again, that's a card. I don't own this one yet. Obviously, it's on my radar.
Yeah.
That's an attainable card. This one, the Credentials Now is probably not attainable for me unless something drastically changes in my life financially. This one, of course, we know. So I'm checking boxes here, right?
Now, let me talk about that one. That was one of the cards I didn't have.
Yeah.
So if you flip to the back of that, you see something like in the number section. To be determined.
Yeah.
So I didn't want to mistake for people to think that I had the card. So there was that. I'm trying to think. I don't consider that Olympic card one that I missed during my collection. I mean, clearly it is one that I missed, the one that you showed earlier.
Yeah.
This one was one of the cards I missed, the 90, and then one of the precious metal. I think it was the Universe Precious Metal also has a TBD on it.
Yeah. Okay.
But those are the 3. And it's also listed in the Jordan Hall of Fame book. Yeah, that was it.
There it is. Yeah.
Yeah, those are the 3 that I didn't have. So thanks for showing the cards I didn't have.
Yeah, my bad. I didn't know. I thought TBD, and I was like,
showed that I didn't have the Flair rookie gem 10.
Did you even do anything? Did you even collect Jordan cards, Lou? I mean, did you even collect them?
Who is this guy? Get me off the channel.
Well, look, I'm just like flattered that I had like 2 cards that you never had. I'm like, I'm feeling big now. My head is huge.
I'm glad you have them.
Here's a big one that a lot of people kind of don't really know about, the grand finale serial number 50.
That was a card that first of all, I was very proud of that grade. I don't know if that's the highest grade. It might be. Someone could tell me, but that was some cards are just more special to you than others. And that was one of those cards, like you hit one of them, that the big men with the Z-Pete.
Yep.
That was one that I really liked. Like for example, the Jordan, you've got up there the Jordan, it's a gem mint 10 of this Caesar's Palace. I really didn't care about the Caesar's Palace card, but I liked the fact that it was a gem mint 10 and nobody else had one.
Right. Right.
So that's usually I like the card and the grade is an afterthought.
And look, Lou, we're 15 years later and look how many there are. There's 9.
Yeah.
Lou, PSA's only graded 33 of these ever. I mean, here we are. This is 1991. That's 32 years ago.
Can I tell you a funny story about that card?
Yeah.
So I'm at the convention. The guy just gave it to me. And PSA, I went up to PSA and I said, I'd like this card graded. And they said, we have no justification of this card. So we don't think it's a card.
What the hell is it? Yeah. What did you make?
We don't think they told me we don't think we can grade it. So I had to show them their own PSA population report and show them this card. And the guy comes back. He's like, "Oh, Mr. Costabile, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry."
in here, we're so sorry here. Just take a 10 and walk away. Don't tell anybody.
That was the surprise for me, right?
Yeah.
And you know what, Brian? You never know, right?
Yeah.
I mean, grading is a very interesting process.
There's your illuminator. There's your illuminator, Lou, that we were
Let's
talking
go
about.
through these. I think they're
Yeah.
all in a row. This will
Yep.
show you the differences for people who've never seen them before.
Yep. The T1B. Well, there's your illuminator
They'll all be
T1B.
in a row. They should all be like, go to the very first one.
Okay, let's go back. I don't know how to do that. How do I do that? Let's see.
Yeah.
There we go.
Yeah. So that's your regular card.
That's your luminous.
To the back.
Yep. And let me make sure I do this right. There you go.
Okay, there's the back. That's the normal card. You can see it's solid.
Yep. There's your luminescent, the middle one.
And that looks like a refractor.
On the front.
So the challenge, though, is that, and the back you can see looks like a refractor. All right, so then go to the last one. And now you can see through this card.
There we go.
Yeah, you can actually see through the card.
Yeah, it's translucent. Yeah, the illuminators.
Yeah, so the illuminator, you can actually see kind of through it. So I say that to say, I don't know if you could see through it that well there, but that gives the person who's never seen these cards before the differences. Maybe even go to the illuminator in this.
Yeah, this is where you could tell a little bit better is the T9B. You know,
that looks like a refractor, right?
It is. It's like the translucent. It's kind of a refractor and translucent. It's hard to describe it. I didn't understand it until I held one in my hand.
Illuminator right there.
That's the illuminator. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. That they flip to the back. Yeah, because you could kind of, well, it's a little difficult maybe at the top.
They're tricky, Lou. They're tricky. You can hold it in your hand and still maybe not be, maybe not really know. And there's tons of them that are mislabeled by the grading company.
Unfortunately, I mean, PSA and Beckett are doing the best they can. I'm absolutely sure of that. But
yeah. So one card I wanted to ask if you had, because I think I've only seen one in my life, is this card. This is the base, the super rave of this card, which is serial number to 25.
That's a 98-99. So I didn't focus as much on that. I mean, there were, again, 98-99 kind of wrecked it because it was, I had all the.
That's a big card right there. That's a really big card right there. I haven't even had time to flip through all your stuff.
What's fun for me, Brian, is to watch you watch this card.
Well, we can do this for 5 hours if you want.
It's a signed Jordan card. I get it, but
I mean, that's a sample right there. Yeah. I mean, literally, we could do this forever. I mean, this is big time. That's Lou. That's Lou. I mean, again, look, was I lying? I told y'all this guy was the king of Jordan collectibles. At his peak, he walked away from the game like Jordan after hitting the shot against the Jazz after he allegedly pushed off on Brian Russell. Lou, here's the question that everybody's going to want to know, and I would be terrible at my job if I didn't ask you. 2 questions.
You just leave him in a mystery, like what is he doing now?
No. Well, there's 3 questions, but the most important question is why. Why did you decide to get out?
The get out question was number 1. I saw that the hobby was getting to a level that I wasn't going to be able to get all the cards. The one of one that kind of put a little dagger in me. The other thing that put a little dagger was when I wasn't able to get the cards I wanted, and it wasn't because I couldn't find them. It was because you just couldn't afford them anymore. The game was getting too expensive.
Yeah.
Although I had all the cards, at least for my, where I was at that moment. And the hobby isn't what it is today. There was no camaraderie. So it was kind of like you were very
lonely endeavor. Yeah, lonely endeavor.
It was well put. It was a lonely endeavor. And, the only time I would, so the cards were a very selfish thing. And I didn't find, I loved Jordan and I loved watching the game and I loved collecting. But I had kind of gotten to the point where I was like, what it's going to cost me for the next 3 is, and waiting to find them. So it got long to wait. It was expensive, and it was just the time to move on.
So the next question is, this is a logistical question. How the hell did you move them? How did you sell them? I mean, it was different then than it is now. I know you had eBay. Talk to me about how you moved all these cards. I mean, these are really important cards. I don't think you put all these on eBay, did you?
Well, I put a lot of them on eBay.
Okay.
And the other thing that was happening was when I put the website together, and I want to say that that was right around the time that the Hall of Fame book came out, which is probably around 2010. People started to know who I was.
Yeah.
And now I had connections, and how I had connections was their emails and their phone numbers. Because I would ask people, I want your email and your cell phone number to get into my website. So I was establishing a list of potential buyers.
Yeah.
So once I had the list of buyers and it was time for me to sell, I could eliminate eBay unless I absolutely needed eBay. And I would just, like, for example, if I wanted to get rid of this card that I just showed you, I'd probably call a few people and
Me.
there you go.
You better. I'm not kidding. I don't own it. I need it. Yeah.
All right,
We will talk. Yeah.
Keep in
We'll talk.
touch. Keep in touch. So,
We will.
seriously, I mean,
Yeah.
there's a time where it's just time to, you heard me say it earlier, there's a time to quit playing.
Yeah.
And I knew that my time to quit playing. And let me talk about something else that was when I was collecting baseball cards, basketball cards. I mean, I'm really, really passionate about it. And I put the website together. So putting the website together gave me the history that I could always look back at.
Yeah, of course.
In other words, like my house could burn down, but I could still look at my cards.
Yeah.
Because I had them all online. And although that was, the word that comes to mind is almost abusive, putting that website together with what I was doing, the way I was doing it. I wasn't doing it like a normal person would do it. Like, oh, I'll do a little bit. And then I was like, this is getting done.
You could do it so much quicker now. Let's put it that way. We could do it in a couple hours.
And better scans and everything else too.
Well, your scans are insane. I think they're incredible.
Yeah, but I mean, and that was back then. So you can only imagine what I would have been doing now. But the other thing was I had a huge passion towards cars. I loved cars, and I liked.
What a segue, Lou. Look at that. I'm a professional, Lou. Guys, this is Lou. Look, you guys who think that I have a lot of people that listen and watch my YouTube channel.
Go to the videos there for a second. Click on the video. Click on the videos.
Which one?
Go up. That's some business tips, but
right here?
Up, I think it should be not me on the business tips. It should be, that's the cars that I video. And like, for example, let's just talk about the one real briefly up in the top. So now my collectability is trying to find cars. Take your mouse off it so they can see that thumbnail. Oof. But when do you see a car that has glowing tires? And the answer is no.
I don't know what's happening here.
So the tires are actually glowing. The guy from Goodyear for 44 years who helped produce those tires did the video with me.
Yeah.
The car next to it, the black one, is Bob Hope's Cadillac. The red one, and I'll just share with these three cars. So the one that's in white with the glowing tires is in Illinois. The one that's the Cadillac is in Canada. And the one that's the red one with the 4-speed is in Pennsylvania. So my point is now I'm kind of traveling the country looking for the Jordan cards, the one of ones.
Lou, this is collecting. It's collecting.
I'm collecting cars.
It doesn't matter what. We're collectors at heart. It's in our genes. It's gonna happen. This is like, you're not just a guy that did
got some
video.
business tips, and you can just see the cars. I recently started the business tips, which is where you see my face in the third one. Because I've had some 20-year-olds and some 19-year-olds ask me for some business tips. And they said, you got to put that online. So I've done some of that. And I help companies with communication consulting and things like that. So if they want to improve their sales, or they're not having good communication internally in their companies, that's what I've transitioned to, is that and the YouTube channel. So I'm collecting.
Forget business tips. Give the people that are watching collecting tips, Lou. I want, in a nutshell, if somebody's, and I get these questions all the time. Hey, I think I'm ready. I've done my research. I'm ready to start collecting Jordan cards.
Yeah.
Just throw something out there. What would be the first thing that you would tell a 25-year-old dumb kid who thinks he's got enough money to do this? Business
tips for collecting cards. First of all, you want to collect the player that you like.
Yeah.
Okay. So the blue chip guys are obvious. LeBron, Babe Ruth, Michael Jordan. The guys who are retired and who've done it. Tom Brady. these are guys you don't have to think about. So if you want to do that, the probabilities is they're going to go up in value. Okay. So that's easy to try to find them. And then I would suggest try to get, outstanding grades if you can. Some cards just don't have outstanding grades. I mean, some are just, a Beckett 7.5 is the best grade it's ever going to be. But you want to collect the highest grade you can for what you have and really become kind of like how I went from a collector of all baseball cards to I had to pick one person. I would say pick your person and then really understand the intricacies and then buy that card that, you enjoy. Like, for example, if I was buying cards right now, right, I'll give you the ones that I'd go after. I'd go after the Flair legacy cards.
There you go. They're all at the bottom on tier
I would go
one
for
right
the
there,
legacies.
Lou.
I would go for, I think the rubies are too expensive.
Mm-hmm.
And I'd go for the atomic refractors.
12 of those. Yep.
And I would go for anything that's, super silly in cost. I don't think is advantageous right now because, unless you own an island and have a yacht, then go after it. But
I've adjusted. I was a PSA 10 snob, and then this damn premium, they went crazy. And I was like, well, this doesn't make sense. I can go get 7 PSA 9 of cards I don't have. I'm going to drop down and go do my thing. I can worry about PSA 10s later. Yeah. Maybe they come back. Yeah, I had to, Lou. I had to adjust.
That's another thing too. I would still look at the Flair rookie, the 86.
Yep.
And I would here's my wild card in the thing. I would get yourself a star card.
Yeah, it's right there.
It doesn't matter what grade it is, and don't worry if it's off center, and just continue. That's how I got my 9. I had an 8.5, and a person who had this 9 knew who I was, and he contacted me and said, "I will trade for your 8.5 and cash." So I was able to trade up, and it wasn't very expensive at the time. I mean, my up trade from an 8.5 to a 9 was probably about $750.
Yeah,
which now seems like I'm a genius.
Yeah.
But if I would have kept all of the cards that I had up until the last dance, I'd probably be calling you from that island.
Yeah. I would not. No, yeah. No habla inglés. No interview for you, Brian.
No, I'd still give you an interview. Definitely. I always wanted to talk about the cards. Yeah. I just didn't have the platform. And it's kind of funny because as I switched from sports cards to sports cars.
Yeah.
YouTube, the platform was there for me.
It just appeared.
So I caught it at the right time. And a matter of fact, from where I'm sitting, you can see it's right. Wait, I got to find it in your viewfinder. There's my YouTube silver certificate. So I'm very satisfied that I have lots of people who follow me, and my Facebook page, My Car Story with Lou, and my YouTube channel do really, really well. And I've been able to ride in some unbelievable cars that
I bet.
The one thing I will say about sports cars for me was you can get in them and you can experience them.
Yeah.
Where the card was a very self-centered lifestyle for me, meaning I was enjoying it, and at the time it was hard for me to share it.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, you can't. You can't drive it.
And that's why, I really like what you're doing with your channel, and I like the fact that the game has changed in a positive way. The unpositive way is how much it costs.
There's pros and cons. There's some great things some great things.
That more people are aware of it and more people can share. I love how, Golden's got this series on TV, Netflix, collecting.
It's not bad.
The King of the Collectors. Whenever you can talk about collecting and we can share the collection is what I was missing. And that's why it was one of the reasons for me to leave.
Well, brother, listen, this is your platform. You're always welcome. All you got to do is text me and say, "Hey, I want to come on. There's one more thing I forgot to talk about." You got it, Lou. Anytime. I'm dead serious.
I'm happy to have people check out the thing. And like I said, the email is, you can PayPal that if you wanted, and you don't have to PayPal for it. If you're like, "Hey man, I'm just broke. I just want to see your cards."
Yeah.
I just want to share the cards, but if you realize the time I put into it, then you have
I know the time
funds to help. I've got a kid in college.
Yeah. Listen, we only showed like 10 or 12 of your cards. Like there's 900 front and back plus scanned images. So 1,800 plus scanned images. So that website is literally it's an encyclopedia. It's like
It's the
like
history lesson for Michael Jordan card collectors in the early years.
it is unbelievable,
And
man.
it's what I wanted to do for the Globe, because like I said, I had that Topps book and I was such a collector that I really wanted to see the backs, and I was an animal to make sure that I got people what they wanted. So I hope they enjoy. Brian, it's really been a pleasure.
Yeah, for sure. And listen, I just want you to know you're only a custodian of that star BGS9 for the time being. Okay.
Yeah.
So we will chat about it. I've got to move some pieces around, you know, to make that work, but we'll talk one day.
That'd be great.
Yeah. You're always welcome on the channel, man. Good luck in your endeavors with sports cars. Again, it's funny. I'm following in your footsteps. As a collector in the Jordan world, I'm following in your footsteps apparently as a YouTube content creator. So
well, you're doing great. I mean,
I'm trying.
I remember you. First of all, you're a good negotiator.
Oh, thank you.
I remember that about you. You'd work me a little bit on some of those cards. And by the way, every time you worked me, you won.
Oh, did I? Oh, good.
Yeah.
That makes me feel great, man. That makes me feel real good. I took the king down. I did turn down that McDice error card that I should have jumped on, but oh well.
You know what? You're allowed to make a slip, but regardless, you got a lot of wins, and I was glad that you had the cards, and it was always a treat to make sure that you got the card, and I was always happy when I heard you say I got it. You know,
I appreciate it. And listen, if you're ever down here looking at a car, they got some cars down here in Louisiana. You know, I don't know if they're the kind you want on your channel, but if you ever swing through, we got to get together, man.
Well,
for sure.
Talk about cars for just a second. So if I put those parameters that it was Jordan between the first year and 97, 98, the cars I look for now are between 1940 and 1980.
Okay.
And they're usually either they're stock or they're cars that are restored back to stock. And the cars that usually, you know, just like the Jordan cards, you always wanted that 426 Hemi with a 4-speed, or you know, this one of one that nobody knows, like the one with that one of one I showed you with the glowing tires, called the Golden Sahara. You know, so come to my car story with Lou and check that out. And we haven't talked about it, but if people want to see that website that we show it's called justmj23.
Yeah, I'm terrible at this. This is the part that I'm not good at.
That's all right. I'm working with
justmj23.com.
Justmj23.com, and
check it out.
You could send me an email at TRU, just like the word true with no E, and power, POWR, at yahoo.com. So true power, no E in true, no E in power, true power at yahoo.com. And happy to share that with you. I will ask you, you know, what do you collect? Why do you collect Jordan? Things like that. So I will ask you some questions, because I want to make sure that the true purists, I don't want people just scanning the scan and then, you know.
Well, I'm going to put your link in your, to your website in your, if you want me to, I'll put your email in the YouTube description as well.
Yeah, you can put that in there. Make sure you like and subscribe if you're on the car channel.
Oh, there we go. Yes, there we go.
Don't forget to like and subscribe to Brian, because he's working hard to get
I'm going to get like 100,000.
The history lesson of the Jordan cards.
Lou, thanks again, man. I appreciate it. Sorry we went over, but you and I could have done this for 5 hours, Lou. Easily 5 hours. No problem
at all. It's really been a pleasure to refresh the Jordan feel.
Yeah. I'll be in Chicago. Are you in Chicago?
I am in Elgin, which is a suburb of Chicago.
Okay, listen, I'm coming up to the National next July, so we've got to hook up, man, for sure.
All right, yeah. Okay. I mean, let me know, and it'd be fun. We'll get you some Chicago pizza.
I'll shoot you a text, and you're going to walk the floor with me, and we'll look at all the insanity.
That would be great.
That would be fun.
But then we got to finish with pizza.
That's fine. You just tell me what to eat. I'll eat it. Yeah.
All right.
All right, man. Thanks, Lou. Appreciate it. Guys, thank you for watching. Keep collecting. Stay positive in the hobby, and peace. Awesome, dude.